Hi, Steve with Brownells again with another From the Vault. Today we have special guest star Tom Lumb, and normally we talk about some really historic and interesting guns, but for some reason Tom has brought a couple of very ordinary looking bolt-action guns. So Tom, explain yourself.
Oh boy. Okay. Remington 788 rifles, detachable magazine, 3 rounds. And how I originally got excited about these guns was about over 30 years ago. I was looking for a 30-30 bolt action, and there were very, very few of them, 30-30 being a rimmed case. And
I can think of two.
yes, the 340 Savage, right.
And the 788.
I never had heard, this was early 80s, I had never heard of a Remington 788, and he said, well, get a 788. And I didn't know what it was, and I found one in 30-30. And I immediately liked it. I was a little bit unsure of a couple of things, but as I looked at it, and as I got more, I got the bug and started buying them. And I found out there was it's a completely different rifle. It was made to be inexpensive by Remington, and inexplicably, it was extremely accurate. And I think it drove people crazy because they just couldn't figure it out. And these have always, and to this day, everybody that owns one says how great they shoot, how accurate they are.
A lot of bench resters have used these actions in the past. I know that, and they claim that the rear lockup somehow helps accuracy. I don't know how it happens.
The purists claim that it should be inherently less accurate,
Right.
And it's funny. We just built a bench gun for my mother, who's 83, on a 788 action in 6mm bench rest on a short action 788 22-250. But what Steve is talking about, if you take the bolt out, you push the safety and the bolt will come out, the locking lugs on this particular gun are at the rear of the bolt instead of in the front, like you'll see.
3 rows of 3.
9 locking lugs, very similar to the Weatherby Mark V, but those are on the front. Some experts claim that because the locking lugs are in the rear, then under pressure, 55,000 pounds of pressure, then this will flex. Whether it does or not, it doesn't seem to affect accuracy at all.
It does not.
So the 9 locking lugs make it lock up very tightly. It has the same style extractor as the 700. It's a very, very strong receiver, very thick. There's a couple of things I noticed when making that bench rest gun I talked about, and this one is as well, I'll show you in just a second. The shank, which is the threaded part that threads into the receiver, is much longer than a 700. It's a lot longer, and the recoil lug, which is this piece right here, that's the piece between the barrel and the receiver, and it goes into the stock, and that's what keeps the rifle from coming back. It's very thick. That's over 300 thousandths. I don't know if that has an impact or not. I do know that it works.
It's a very solid setup. And it's got the old style Remington polish on it, which used to be common on their guns.
This is an early manufacturer gun. Now these guns were made late 60s to the early 80s, and the early ones had a walnut stock like this one. Now, if you might notice, the finish is a little strange. I have just stripped it off because the walnut finish stocked guns, and the ones I have, I try to stay with walnut. When you strip them off, all had nice select grain. This one in particular, in the back, has some really nice high grain here up on the comb. And that'll refinish with no stain, and it'll look really nice when it's done. I just haven't finished this one yet.
What about the other one? That stock looks pretty murky.
Yes. What happened is they switched to what they call a hardwood stock, which is...
All that popsicle sticks.
Yeah, and I'm not sure ash or birch. Everybody throws those out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it was. But it's a hardwood, and that doesn't stain well. It's very blotchy, and try as you might, you just can't get it to look consistent. So this was sprayed, like Remington did, with a colored lacquer to color up all the imperfections. But this gun has been rebarreled. It's a heavy barrel. It's 750 at the muzzle. It's a varmint contour, and it's been calibered in .257 Roberts, which is a great round, and it's great up to deer size and medium varmint. And with this heavier barrel, it recoils like a .223.
I know a lot of those guns have been customized over the years, rebarreled into about everything you can imagine.
Yes, and they made 3 or 4 different length actions, but the longer action, which was made for the 6mm Remington, is the longest. So you can do 257 Roberts or 7x57 Mauser.
Now they did some really unusual calibers also. 44 Magnum, for example. Do you see any of those anymore floating around?
I do. You don't see very many. I have one, and the 3030, they were the first 2 cartridges that it came out with and the first 2 that they stopped making. The bolt is different. It does not have this style of extractor. It's got a different external style extractor.
So what do you think? Was the 222 maybe the most popular caliber that ever came out, or there were some bigger centerfires, deer size cartridges as well?
708, 308. 222 is an old round, and a lot of the young people today aren't familiar, but it was a famous bench rest caliber in the 50s, and extremely accurate, but the 223 kind of just pushed it out of the way. Yeah. And this is offered in 223 as well.
Nice gun. Nice action to build on.
They are available. They did become popular, so the prices went up, but they've kind of leveled off. But if you can find some, they're a great gun to work on, and they're a great gun to shoot. Both of these have had the trigger replaced with a Timney trigger. There's been a couple of issues with the original trigger being that when you push the safety forward to extract the bolt, when hunters would come out of the woods and they would hold the gun, with the safety on the original trigger, it had a tendency to push that forward, or if they were carrying it over their shoulder, a lot of people lost the bolt out of those guns. And if you lose it, you really can't find these anymore. They don't exist.
It has to come off another gun.
Right, exactly.
So if you want to pick one of these up and work on it, are you destroying any collector's value or anything? Do you have to worry about that?
I don't think so, because as an economy gun, it was never considered to be collectible. I mean, if it were absolutely 100% condition, maybe, but most of these you're going to find are going to be well-used guns, truck guns, and you can find some in 243, 308 common calibers at a pretty good price.
User gun. How about some of the rarer calibers? Are they something you should stay away from as far as altering?
30-30s, 44 Magnums, they bring a little bit more money. The 44 brings quite a bit more. An interesting aspect of the 30-30 is because it's a rimmed cartridge, there's a whole lot of custom rounds that you can rebarrel.
Sure.
I have one in a 38-55.
Wow. No magazine issues with that?
No, and 25-35 Winchester.
535.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when your hobby becomes your job, you start doing stuff.
Well, all right. These are a lot more interesting than I thought they would be, actually.
They're a fun gun, and they work really well, which really aggravates people that buy expensive guns, especially in a competition when somebody shows up with a gun like this and shoots better.
These will shoot with a 700 all day long.
Yes, they will.
Yeah. Tom, it's been amazing. I learned a lot today.
Had a good time.
Thank you very much. And thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in again when we bring you another gun from the vault.